Welcome to On the Frontline, the Military Rec Show, hosted by John Prue, where we spotlight the people, programs, and purpose driving military recreation around the world. In today's episode, we're diving into the world of parks, recreation, and military community impact with a very special guest, Jay Tryon, Deputy Director for the City of Concord, North Carolina, and co-host of the popular Reckless podcast. From his unforgettable MWR internship experience at Great Lakes to helping shape the future of parks and recreation leadership nationwide, Jay shares his incredible journey, career insights, and passion for building stronger communities through recreation. This is On the Frontline, powered by the DPRS Media Network. Let's dive in.
All right, my name is John Prue, and you are here on the front line. It is 31 March, and it is almost springtime, so that's awesome. Again, I'm the host of this weekly podcast focused on armed forces or military recreation, where we talk to professionals in the industry who in some way are making or have made a difference in the quality of life for our military and their families. Now, out there, you might be an MWR or morale, welfare, and recreation professional who directly supports quality of life for our military and their families each and every day. Maybe you have been or are in the military and a user of MWR programs and services, and certainly we thank you for your service. Perhaps you're a business or organization who directly supports or wants to support those armed forces recreation professionals around the globe. You just might be a public parks and recreation professional curious about that thing called military recreation or MWR and what it's all about. Or perhaps you don't fit into any of those categories and you just tuned in. Either way, welcome to On the Frontline, the Military Rec Show. All right, last day of March. We got Easter this weekend. Ring-a-ding-ding, it is officially spring, I think. So, all right, we have an amazing show for you today, and I really can't wait to bring our guests. But we also want to talk about this amazing media company that we're a part of called Daily Parks and Rec Show, or DPRS Media. It exists to honor those parks and recreation community and professionals, reflecting on the stories and highlighting the careers of those real pros who are actually doing the essential work in their communities. This includes our military communities. I want to give a shout out to our producer today, Jovi. She's behind the scenes, pulling up the graphics, doing the transitions, trying to make us look good, and that can be a chore. So in advance, thank you, Jovi, for what you do. I also want to thank our founder of DPRS Media, Craig LeBlanc, and the many podcasts and shows that he's either doing himself or behind, which is really making a difference and an impact in the parks and recreation industry. And I want to thank him for the opportunity to host this weekly podcast focused solely on military recreation and the great work being done out there. All right, today's show sponsor is Outdoor Link. I want to thank Outdoor Link, who's been one of our earliest supporters of DPRS Media. If you want to turn on your city on and off with the swipe of a finger on an app, this is what Outdoor Link does. Outdoor Link builds smart cities, connecting our park lights, splash pads, fountains, scoreboards, bathroom door locks, or anything powered by electricity into a simple app on your phone, tablet, or desktop that can be controlled from any location 24/7, 365 days a year. If you'd like to learn more about Outdoor Link, tune into Smart Parks Forward, a show with Dave Ramirez, and on the second and fourth Mondays at 1:30 Eastern Time on the DPRS Media Network. We're also going to see here a spot on JDP Services Management Consulting, which is near and dear to my heart, of course. So we're going to go to these spots. So Jovi, you can take it away, and we'll be right back with the show.
JDP Services Management Consulting, supporting parks and recreation and the essential service they provide. Communities benefit greatly from having dedicated advocates who champion the value of play in open spaces. Such advocacy ensures that recreational areas are prioritized and managed in ways that enhance the overall quality of life for everyone. We are dedicated to fortifying public park and recreation agencies and other related organizations by taking a practical, engaged approach to consulting and training, addressing immediate needs while equipping clients with lasting insight and tools to strengthen their organizations for long-term success. JDP Services, Management Consulting, meeting needs and exceeding expectations.
In today's parks and recreation industry, communication, safety, and efficiency go hand in hand. That's where Outdoor Link comes in, delivering smart technology that empowers city departments and community planners to do more, smarter. Outdoor Link's platform connects and automates everything that keeps your parks running smoothly, from lighting and locks to signage, water features, Wi-Fi, and digital advertising. Control and schedule park lights for safety and energy savings. Remotely manage facility access. Update digital displays in real time. Coordinate fountains and splash pads. Provide public connectivity. And even run community or sponsorship campaigns on digital screens. All from one simple, unified platform, giving you real-time control, data, and cost efficiency. For parks and recreation agencies, that means safer spaces, smarter resource use, faster responses, and stronger community engagement. And behind every great park story is great infrastructure. That's why Outdoor Link proudly supports DPRS Media Company, helping the daily Parks and Rec Show amplify the voices of professionals shaping our communities every day. Outdoor Link, smart, connected solutions for parks, recreation, and beyond.
All right, we are back. And as we usually do, we are going to talk about some really cool programs that are happening around the globe. And we highlight that off of some of the social media channels through NRPA's Armed Forces Recreation Network that we have. We'll talk about how you can be a part of it and those specifics. But Jovi, if you want to bring up the slide deck, please. All right. So we want to talk about some really cool programs that happen. And one of them here is the Warrior Run at Fort Sill, which just recently populated up on our, I believe, our Facebook site. And had tons of runners. They're out there. It's an annual run that they do. Looks like weather was cooperative over at Fort Sill for this one, but very cool run. Gets the whole community behind them on this one, and just wanted to share that with all of you. So we will go to the next one here. And this was pretty cool. Navy Fitness, along with Command PT, they went out and did some high intensity training or HIIT training at Washington Nationals Park locally. And this was from Naval Air Station, Pax River, which just relatively close to Washington. So they came up and did their PT, so to speak, right at Major League Baseball Park, and thought that was interesting and certainly wanted to share as well. Okay, of course it's Easter. There are tons of activities that are happening this weekend, but a lot of the Easter events actually started happening last weekend. A couple caught my attention. I couldn't put up many because, trust me, there was probably about 10 or 15 different posts related to Easter, but didn't want to share this one. It was Easter egg extravaganza at Fort McCoy up in Wisconsin. They had a lot of fun. They had a lot of different things going on, and obviously pictures, lots of eggs, and obviously pictures with the bunny and crafts and food and all that good stuff. So really cool program from Fort McCoy up in Sparta, Wisconsin, I think, or Toma, Wisconsin, right in that area. And then another egg hunt over at Carlisle Barracks in Pennsylvania, I believe that is. And they had a lot of fun with a large egg hunt. These pictures don't even do justice how many people were actually out there from that side. So very cool, and good job to them, the MWR team at Carlisle Barracks. Okay, and tomorrow is April, which is Month of the Military Child. So this is a national campaign. Obviously, military is all behind it, but there's no reason our public parks and recreation in all cities should get behind it, because there's military children all over our country, not just on military bases. But Month of the Military Child, big celebration for all of us in the MWR world and child and youth programs. And so want to highlight that. And here at NSA Mid-South, which is in Millington, Tennessee, just outside of Memphis, they put on a clinic, and this really caught my attention because it's a teen auto skills guided tour. And so, and we all know we have our auto skills programs, which are really self-help auto garages where they don't necessarily turn the wrenches for you, but they'll instruct you. They have all the tools. They have the lifts. You can do just about anything. And for them to kind of put this guided tour and start to get some of those teens involved with maybe just down the line to have their own cars and be able to change their oil or rotate their tires or do whatever. It's a really cool feature of MWRs that have these programs, and here they are using Month of the Military Child to get our teens exposed to a benefit that they have along with all the families. So very cool, really caught my attention. I think that was a pretty neat idea as we celebrate Month of the Military Child in April. Okay, and where do you get all that information? You get it through Armed Forces Recreation Network. So in the middle, you'll see our Facebook QR code. I'll leave it up on screen here if you want to, take a picture or whatever. You can get this information off NRPA's website as well. We also have a LinkedIn account on the far right side. Not quite as active as the Facebook account, but more growing members and more posts each and every day. We probably have somewhere in the area of about 140 to 150 posts or reposts each month on this network. So we are seeing all these cool programs that, I'm just doing a teaser here. You can see them all because they're being posted on the social media sites of the Armed Forces Recreation Network. And then on the far left, AFRN has their meeting on the second Wednesday of each month. So April's meeting is right around the corner, and you can register through NRPA. And I know in April, we were talking to the leadership team, they are doing a aquatics topic panel for their meeting. So they'll give service updates and general business updates. And then they're going to have a panel talking about all things aquatics, which 'tis the season as we open up our outdoor pools around the country here. Pretty exciting stuff. So Armed Forces Recreation Network, and here's an opportunity to get behind that. So there's my shameless plug for AFRN. All right, Jovi, you can take that back down. Okay. We are going to bring up our guest today, and can't wait to have him. There he is, Mr. Jay Tryon. How you doing, Jay?
I am great, John. Happy to be here and excited to dive into all things Park and Rec with you, including MWR.
Yeah, we've been talking about it, so glad to have you on here and talk all things recreation in general. But this is Jay Tryon. He's the Deputy Director for City of Concord, North Carolina, Parks and Recreation Department. Jay also is one of the co-hosts of a very popular podcast in the Parks and Recreation space called Rec List. So we'll talk a little bit about that today as well. So Jay, before we get going here, I definitely want to start here. I know you're into sports. We talked sports before. How about the NC2A tournament, men's and women's? But
Yeah.
wow, crazy basketball games. And I have to give a shout out to the men's, although, not huge surprises out there, just some really good basketball, close games, crazy endings. What did you think about the UConn Duke game? You're from North Carolina, so I'm not sure if you're Carolina or Duke guy, but everybody in North Carolina had to have been watching that game.
So you had to ask me this. I'm a Duke fan, and was actually at the ACC championship when Duke won it versus Virginia 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago now.
Yeah.
So I'm watching that game, and it's funny. I was watching it with a handful of other Duke fans, and at halftime, everyone was just riding high, and people were talking about, Final Four, and I said, guys, it's not over yet. And, that was when they were up 13, 14, 15 points, and, they actually put a clip on the screen with about a minute left, and it said teams that were leading by 19 or more were 134-0. And I said to the guy sitting next to me, I will swear by this. I said, anytime they put a clip like that on TV, it's not a good sign.
Yeah.
And, a minute later, the shot that everyone has now seen probably more than once will go down in history as one of the craziest finishes of all time.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you just don't expect that to happen, even if they go down or even if they get over half court and, lose the ball or something weird happens, they don't have enough time to come down. Then the tip pass, they come back a couple passes later, they fire up a long three and hit it with 0.3 seconds left on the clock. Oh my God.
Yeah. It's truly why they say March Madness, because you just never know how a game could end.
Yeah. Yeah. So it should be interesting. Final Four for both the men's and women coming up this weekend, and Easter and all sorts of good stuff. So it should be a wild weekend. And something to that note about putting up those weird stats, or whenever those announcers say that, it's like when they have the field goal kickers in the NFL. He hasn't missed a kick in the last 50, and then sure enough, he misses an extra point.
I swear that happens all the time. And they look for these odd facts, and then all of a sudden that's no longer is a fact.
Yeah, I've always got the cloud of doubt floating over me for my teams, and anytime somebody says like that, just shut up, don't say that. You're gonna jinx them.
I'm with you.
All right, Jay. Want to talk about lots of things today, and I guess to start this off, and we'll focus about your internship a little bit more, but just kind of walk us through your journey through Parks and Rec, from why you went to college and went into this field to all the way where you are today with a pretty important job.
Yeah, absolutely. I would love to talk about that. So I grew up in Buffalo, born and raised in Buffalo, New York, and was involved as a child in a variety of different sports leagues, after school programs. I went to the local YMCA, went to a summer camp called Young Life when I was in high school. That was an organization, Christian organization that really, focused on summer camp. And that was where I really drew a passion for just resident camp and camp in general. But throughout all of those initiatives and things that I was involved in, I always had a lot of people that had a major influence on my life. So when I was looking in college of what I want to do, my initial thought was teaching, just because I had an older brother that was a teacher, and I was always involved in sports, and he was a phys ed teacher. And I said, well, I can be a phys ed teacher. I love working with kids, worked as a camp counselor, and just think that would be something I could, easily adapt to. Yeah. But then I stumbled upon my freshman year, there was a general education class in park and recreation, and really didn't ever realize all of the different areas of park and recreation that were available if that was a career path I wanted to pursue. But also those are the areas that I grew up going to. So, like I said, the YMCAs, the summer camps, the after school programs through the local community center, all these things that had these areas of park and rec that I didn't know that was the option, or it was an option at all. And luckily, I was at SUNY Brockport, State University of New York. It's a SUNY school in New York, Brockport. And I was required to do 2 internships. And did a summer internship here in North Carolina at a summer camp, and did that my freshman year going into sophomore year, fell in love with North Carolina. So did it the following 3 summers as a summer job. But like I said, I had to do 2 internships. So my second one, you kind of had free reign as a college student to choose any internship you wanted to, which was honestly an incredible opportunity for me to say, I can choose where and what I want to do for a full semester.
Now,
And
you had Dr. Jewell, was that his
yes.
name at Brockport? Yeah, I remember, dealing with him. He had a good program, a really big advocate for military recreation as well, I think.
Yeah. So when we were given this, this book of options, and I kind of quote unquote use the term book because it was a very long list, but there was other things available that if someone had an interest in tourism and wanted to go work at a resort, like that was also an option, even if it wasn't in this list. But this list also had like approved sites that either other students have done in the past or other professors have spoken with staff that would take interns. And that is where I first learned about MWR and just really thought that would be a unique experience for me and I didn't come from a military background, did not have any family that I was very close with that had, ties to military, that I had a lot of information on what that even entailed. But the more research I did, I thought it would be really neat to kind of dive into something new, which would give me experience doing something totally different that I've never done before, and also put me in a part of the country that I had family in. So my brother lived in Chicago at the time, and him and I were close, but he was 3 years older than me. So he was away at his first full-time job in downtown Chicago. And, I knew that I would be able to see him occasionally, but it was like, okay, I could be 6-7 hours away from home, but still have family if I need them nearby for something. But also be out on my own living on a base that, was kind of an extension in a way of, a college campus, because you're living in a dorm room and you have your own space. So that was easy because some of the other folks that I was talking to that were students that were looking at internships, they didn't all provide housing. So you had to actually like find housing on your own, which is a challenge for a 21-year-old to not really understand like what that looks like when you're trying to find a job.
Yeah, and for a very short period of time, 14, 16 weeks or whatever, it's hard to find a lease or and you're basically renting by the week, I guess.
Yeah, ultimately. So when I learned more about what MWR had to offer and then the location, I said, this is a perfect opportunity. I get to, spend a full semester getting paid, which was amazing. Obviously, as a college student, you're still doing credits for school, but you're getting paid, you're getting firsthand experience. And I was involved with sports. I loved, sports activity as a player. I went on to do some coaching when I moved to North Carolina. And, knowing I could have an impact with, providing some services for whether it was active duty or families at the time when I was still learning about the opportunity, it was really right up my alley. And it truly is. And I know, this show is primarily focused on MWR. I'm not just saying this just to say it. I truly mean that. And there's things that I learned during that internship that 21 years later, I'm still using to this day. So it was an amazing experience and that's partly why when, John, you asked me to be on here, I know in our industry, when you're looking at, your senior year of college, it's still very prevalent for folks to have to do internships. Mm-hmm. And if there's any way I can, kind of put that bug in someone's ear to think about or pursue that opportunity as an internship with MWR, I would absolutely recommend that all day. And I think it made me, even have a deeper appreciation for what we do, because the folks that you're impacting, they're working very hard, training day in and day out. And that hour and a half or 2 hours, or maybe less than that a day that they get to recreate is such a valuable time. And I learned that because, you don't think about that sometimes. And it was something that was very eye-opening my first, couple weeks on the job.
Yeah. Well, we'll circle back on the Great Lakes experience here, but we loved having you, and I'm glad we were able to kind of stay connected, even though you went off kind of more in the Parks and Rec world. But walk us through. You got done with your internship. How'd your career path take you to City of Concord?
Yeah, so finished my internship of May of 2005. Went back to Brockport to graduate. Walk across, get my degree. And really, I went back home. So Brockport is about an hour and a half from, where I grew up in Buffalo. And when I graduated and just really started to apply for jobs. And in the meantime, I got a part-time job working at a YMCA as a youth sports coordinator. Did that for a little less than a year, or maybe close to a year, as I was applying for jobs. But I knew that I wanted to go back to North Carolina. My time here during that summer internship and the 3 summers that I spent here in total, I really just fell in love with North Carolina, being close to the ocean, close to the mountains, very different climate than what I was used to being up in the Northeast in Buffalo in those snowy winters. So just threw my hat into a bunch of job applications and landed my first full-time job in 2006, working for Mecklenburg County. And it was a recreation specialist position where I was tasked to provide programming for a recreation center. And the county has about 22 rec centers. So every single rec center has 2 rec specs, and they just provide all the programs. So youth sports, after school programs, special events, a variety of arts and crafts programs. And, I got thrown at one of them that I was, not familiar with because I was, relocating here, but it happened to have a skate park. And, it was definitely another opportunity for me to learn and grow because I had not had any experience managing a skate park, but took over all the programs that were going through that skate park with skate lessons and skate camp and skate trips. So I love that time. I was there for about 3 years. Then I moved on and was promoted to be the operations director of 2 special event facilities. So one was an outdoor football complex that hosted football games, lacrosse games, outdoor festivals. And they had an indoor.
Still working for Mecklenburg County?
Yep. Still with Mecklenburg County. So they had 2 facilities that were next to each other. One was the outdoor space, and they had an indoor space that was a basketball arena that hosted up to 3,000 people. So they would have concerts in there, basketball games, trade shows, a variety of different things. I spent 5 years at that facility, or those 2 facilities. And then there was an opportunity that I applied for to become the director of Indian Trail Parks and Recreation, which is right outside of Charlotte in Union County. And the unique thing about that opportunity was they did not have a park and rec department at the time. So the town passed $8.5 million worth of park bonds. And then once the voters approved those park bonds, the city said, well, we need to hire staff to manage these parks and, grow the department. So I was tasked to, be the first hire and, build it. And it was an amazing experience that I probably wouldn't have gotten anywhere else.
Yeah.
Because we're looking at, building rules for the first time and what the reservations would look like. And, handing my hand in the place of building parks for the first time is really unique.
Yeah. From the ground up, right?
Yeah. So I stayed there for about 5 years. And then I went back to Mecklenburg County and I served as the superintendent of recreation for all of those recreation centers I mentioned earlier. So I was overseeing all 22 of the rec centers, plus youth sports, adult sports, and the senior centers, which was amazing to go back. I loved the staff that was there. I still lived in Charlotte. All of these times I lived in Charlotte the whole time. So I still stayed connected with a lot of the people and the facilities. I stayed in that role for about 5 years. And then I moved to the role that I'm in currently as the deputy director for the City of Concord.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome. You had some good opportunities. Plus, Mecklenburg County is, how many wonderful park and rec professionals have worked there or are still working there. What a great way to kind of cut your teeth in parks and rec, working with them, and then that opportunity is that kind of growing your own department, so to speak, from the ground up. That's awesome. So.
Yeah. It's really great. And I've actually stayed in touch with all the folks over there too with Indian Trail, and they're now going through a feasibility study for their first recreation center, and seeing the growth from where it was when I was there to where it is today is awesome. And it's really exciting to see that.
Yeah. It's great. And you've been able to kind of stay where you've said you like North Carolina. You gravitated towards that, and you basically stayed in the same basic area. So that makes life easier if you're not moving across the country or moving all of the time, which sometimes is a challenge with armed forces recreation because military bases. So
yeah, absolutely. I mean, obviously there'd be some great benefits of that, but then there's a lot of challenges that go along with that as well. So you got to weigh those pros and cons with those decisions. And sometimes you don't necessarily have the choice. It's just given to you.
Yeah, I'm the oddball in this whole thing. I did my internship at Great Lakes, and 16 weeks turned into 34 years. So,
Yeah.
but I am not the example. um, we're going to take a quick break. And when we come back, we're going to talk a little bit more about your internship at Great Lakes and kind of dive a little bit more into how that kind of shaped your career path and some things. And then we're going to get into a lot of other good topics as well. But Jovi, if you want to run the promo and hang tight, we will be right back with Jay Tryon.
Welcome to DPRS Media Network, the voice of parks and recreation professionals, where leadership grows, facilities thrive, and communities connect. Leadership Series, insights from the leaders shaping our industry. Facility maintenance, the backbone of safe and sustainable spaces. Young Professionals Network, empowering the next generation of parks and rec leaders. The Rec Room, real conversations, real stories, real impact. Youth Sports Mastery, elevating the game for athletes and communities. Smart Parks Forward, innovation driving the future of recreation. On the Frontline, honoring those who serve our communities every day. Athletes Commute, the journey behind the performance. The Aquatics Life, everything aquatics, safety, staffing, sustainability. Safe Spaces and Green Spaces, a show exploring the connection between nature and mental well-being. And we don't just tell the stories, we show up where it happens. From local gatherings to national parks and recreation conferences, DPRS Media Network is on the ground, capturing conversations, highlighting innovation, and amplifying the voices shaping our industry's future. DPRS Media Network, connecting parks, empowering people, inspiring communities. It started with a shared purpose, a vision to bring people together, to inspire, to learn, and to lead. And at CPRS Conference 2026, that vision came to life. From every conversation to every connection made, this wasn't just an event, it was a community in motion. Ideas were challenged, perspectives were expanded, and leaders stepped forward, ready to shape the future of parks and recreation. At DPRS Media Network, we had the privilege of capturing it all. The passion, the innovation, the stories that deserve to be seen and heard. Because these moments don't just stay here, they ripple outward, into communities, into programs, into lives. To the organizers, the speakers, the partners, and every single attendee, thank you. For showing up, for sharing your voice, and for being part of something bigger than all of us. This is more than a conference. This is a movement. And DPRS Media Network will continue to tell your story every step of the way. We'll see you at the next one.
All right, we are back. Jay, let's talk about Great Lakes. Okay,
Yeah.
So yeah, we brought in a lot of different interns. We were pretty active those days with interns, and typically our interns would come in either 14, 16 weeks. It depends on the university. We were pretty flexible. We had a couple that were only like 12 weeks long. We always were hesitant because we kind of knew the path that it took a good 6 weeks just to acclimate people to the military before they really started to learn and be able to produce. I mean, it's a two-sided street. We want that newness, the freshness, the ideas from an intern that really helps our program, but they can't contribute until they really understand the culture. So when people said 12 weeks, it was like, they're just starting to get into it. We loved 14 weeks and 16 weeks was the best. Either way, we had lots of interns coming in. Was there anybody at that time? Because sometimes we had multiple interns working in each semester. Sometimes we'd select 2, sometimes even 3. Was there anybody your semester? Or were
No, I
you
was
the
the only
only
one.
intern?
Yep. at that time, I was the only one with
Okay.
MWR that I'm aware of. I did not come in interaction with any
You'd
others.
know. You'd know for sure.
Okay.
Because interns definitely would have probably roomed close to each other, and yeah, we would have connected you some way. But okay, so getting back to that, your internship was a little different because you came in and clearly wanted to kind of stay in that sports and fitness arena, and typically we had emphasis points for interns, but they would always bounce around and try to hit all the different activities. And I know we pulled you in a couple general special events as
Yeah.
well, but you stayed with sports and fitness. So you got a chance to work with our infamous sports and fitness director, Mr. Bob Marfichuk, who I had the pleasure to work with for almost 32 of my 34 years at Great Lakes. Great guy, great character,
Yeah.
loved what he did, passionate. So tell me what it was like working for Great Lakes MWR Sports and Fitness Division under Mr. Bob Marfichuk.
Well, yeah, and I think, I mentioned it earlier, there's some takeaways that I remember vividly that I still to this day, incorporate into my regular position here. And one of them was just like general fitness facility overview, and just like, not just fitness, but his facility overview as well. So I remember Bob, probably my first, maybe second week on the job, he took me along to tour the facility, but also made a point to talk about the need to tour your facilities to make sure that things were clean, things were organized, so that if it was a fitness center and you're getting there first thing in the morning, that, all the weights were put away the way they should be. And all the benches and the racks were put away the way they should be. So that when someone comes in to do an exercise or a workout, like, it's organized, it looks clean, it looks the way it should. And that stuck with me because, like I said, this was my first like full-time position in any industry that was related to park and recreation. And, you want to pick up habits that are actually, going to help you long term. And that was something that stuck with me, that regardless of what department I was working with or what facility I was overseeing, like, that same habit is going to be important for you to go through, whether it's a skate park, whether it's a rec center, whether it's a fitness center. Like, you want to make sure that when you open up in the morning and your staff opens up, like, it's clean, it's open, it looks inviting for the public, it looks inviting for your active duty or trainees, that they can come see your facility and use your facility. Otherwise, that perception that is going to be made of your facility is going to be, well, man, they don't keep it clean, it's never organized. The weights that I'm looking for are all over the place, they're never in order. And Bob was a stickler about that. He wanted to make sure that whenever someone came to that facility, like, if I want to find the 30-pound dumbbells, I know where those are because they're in order. And, like I said, it was 20 plus years ago. I still remember that. And, it's something that is important. And it sets the foundation for what that facility is going to look like to everyone, not just the folks coming in for the first time.
Yeah, Bob definitely attention to detail on that. And we have what we call them in the military zone inspections, but that kind of, whether it's a formal, you're using a checklist, or it's just one of those visual in your head, you walk around, you're making note of certain things that need to be in the right way. So that kind of thing. It also ties to something I think we all use. We call it journey mapping, customer journey mapping, where you're trying to anticipate everything a customer sees. And that can start from a parking lot. Where you park your car, how you walk into the facilities, what are the front doors? Are they littered with signage, or they don't have any signs? All of those things, and then going through the facility, super important stuff. So glad that stuck with you. Anything else about your experience with us at Great Lakes and the sports division?
I think definitely from the planning perspective, it was my first true time like having to run a program or an event. And I think it was probably a hybrid of both, MWR pushing it, but also for my internship, it was a task that we had to accomplish a program or event, or in this case, multiple events. And so this was my first time like planning on an event. And the event that I did with MWR was for the Super Bowl. And you guys were having like an event, watch party at one of the restaurants. Yeah. And I remember, planning activities, during halftime or before the game or after the game. So, getting some games together, getting some raffles together. And then at the end of my internship, my larger event that I had to plan was a 3-on-3 basketball tournament. And it's kind of interesting that your first question today was about March Madness. And that is why I chose the March Madness or the 3-on-3 as the event, because it was in that March, April timeframe.
Yeah.
And what I'll take away from that right now is, the need to be able to adapt. And I will never forget, this was my first like full-fledged like planning of a full-blown program. And we required for this, we had signups. So you had to sign up your team for a 3-on-3 tournament. And I don't remember the exact number, but say I had, 17, 18 teams signed up. Well, the day of the event, I only had like 9 show up. But the thing is I made a bracket, and that's why it was like tied to March Madness. So like I had a bracket of, the team name here versus the team name down here. And I had to quickly adapt of like, okay, I don't have a bracket of 18 teams. I now have a bracket of 9. So I had to redo it on the mix. And it's interesting because like fast forward to today, and it's like you're planning programs and we have to be able to adapt regardless of whether you're in a municipality, whether you're MWR, whether you work for a nonprofit. You have to adapt because either more people are going to show up or less people are going to show up, or the weather is going to change things. So that taught me really early on in my career that you just need to prepare for the unprepared, that you don't know what's going to hit you.
Yeah. And you know what it does? It builds skills because you run into a couple situations early on in your career, and then all of a sudden you become a really good troubleshooter because now you start to anticipate what if only so many people show up, or what if more people show up?
Yeah.
So you start to get those skills where you can already have anticipated what you do, or at least kind of what you would do. So it's not total shock to you when something like that happens. And that's all part of the game as a programmer. We all went through it for sure.
Oh, definitely. And the more you program, the more comfortable you get. But I know like that was my first time with like, hey, this was not supposed to go the way it went. So like, how do you adapt to it? How do you change to it? And I'm sure, I didn't think of things on the fly like I would now, but it was a great learning experience. And, to think about it from 21 years ago, like I still remember it because I learned from it. And now I, make sure that any of our staff that is planning an event or a program now, like you think about that in advance, but you don't know to think about it when it's your first time.
Yeah. Yeah. And I was reflecting back kind of to your time, and I'm going back and I'm like, oh yeah, I remember what was going on. So as you were finishing up your internship with us, it was in the springtime, right?
It was.
In May? Yeah. So we were in, I was a rec director at the time. So we were already in discussions with TSC, which was the Training Support Center, which kind of, they kind of managed all the students. They didn't do the technical training. They kind of made sure they got all their basic military training, and they managed them in the barracks and everything else. They were doing an initiative where they were trying to implement a variety of kind of after technical training, and part of it was sports. So there was a sports element, there was a history element, and I don't even know if you remember, but I know we had eyeballed you because we knew we were moving into this sports and history element where they would do the history in Ross Theater. And then we were going to kind of handle sports, which eventually grew to this program called the Ultimate Command Challenge. But you were finishing up your internship, and your name had been tossed around if you'd have any interest. And I don't know if we officially approached a job, but I think we surveyed you if you'd have any interest in sticking around to potentially help us with this sports initiative, which, for the next 6 months, we had to grow it and learn it from there. Do you remember any of that?
I don't, but I've actually always said that I enjoyed it so much that if there was an opportunity that I would have stayed on and actually, pursued that. And we might have there might have been a conversation, but I don't ever think there was an opportunity
it might have been the opportunity that we just couldn't guarantee anything at the time, and you were at the end of your internship and needed to make a decision. But guess what? The person who ended up taking on that challenge, and she was already internal to our organization, but we kind of shifted her responsibility, especially in that summer when we started to grow that sports program. Guess who it was? Lisa Weaver, or Lisa Bussey at the time, I believe. So, but Lisa Weaver, who was there, and she kind of took that program under her reins and did an awesome job with it. And, eventually she moved up the chain at Great Lakes as
Yeah.
well. So small world. And
Yes.
we all served on the conference program committee together. And yeah, it's crazy how things happen for a reason. We get there.
Well, and it's funny too, because even a few years later, when I got involved with NRPA, I came in contact and made relationships with other folks that were involved with NRPA that were involved with MWR. So it all came full circle in several instances throughout that time. And yes, it is definitely a small world.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like the internship wasn't just a credit and a check mark. It actually helped shape your career. That's a good thing.
Absolutely, 100%. And like I said earlier, if there's other students that are looking for internships, I would love to talk about that with them, or definitely give them the urge to look into that as an option, because the opportunities there are endless. And you mentioned it earlier, there's places all over the country, all over the world that you could go if that's an interest of you. And you'll gain some skills and some opportunities that you may not gain anywhere else.
Yeah. Let's shift gears a little bit. We touched upon it with NRPA. We're both heavily connected. Talk about some of the things you've been involved with NRPA, and how that's helped you in your career development as well.
Yeah, I think it was my third year with Mecklenburg County. I received a local scholarship here in North Carolina to go to my first national conference. So that was in Baltimore. I want to say it was 2009. And at the time, I was familiar with what NRPA was, but didn't know all the details of it. But once I went to that first conference, I was just blown away by the number of sessions, the speakers, the actual quality of the sessions that were there, the relationships I was able to build, the people I met there, the networking, and I had some conversations throughout that conference of like, hey, like there's other ways to get involved. You can volunteer and you can room host and all these different things. And, I kind of vowed to myself then that like, I don't ever want to miss a conference, because I learned so much. I met some amazing people. And it was something that, was just energetic. There's this life of just passion that comes out of these conferences. So the following year I went back as a volunteer and was able to then, waive your registration fee, which my department supported me to go if they waived the registration. But then that's when I learned about, other committees. So I joined the awards committee. I was on the CAPRA commission for 6 years, because kind of got involved with CAPRA. My agency at the time was accredited, and really just fell in love with what that CAPRA process looked like, and thought it was really neat to be able to dive into departments and, really evaluate, do they meet those standards as best practice? And then, where you and I connected again was the conference program committee, where you as a, individual sit on a panel of, 20 people or so, and you review all those conference sessions. So those folks that are making those decisions on what sessions get in and what don't is, in the hands of 20 different professionals from around the country. And it was really, it's a daunting task to review, in some cases 800 sessions. But it's really neat to be able to have your eyes on all those, to see all the great things that professionals around the country are doing. And, be involved in that process was really unique, because you get to have some great conversations about, advocating why this topic over that topic, or just, showing that like that story to tell that you read and you might connect with them is really important for others to be able to hear that same story.
Yeah, I've got, I served on the committee for 8 years. I had a chance to chair it one of the years. The only year there was a pandemic. So we actually planned, if you remember, you were early on. I think that was your first or second year on the committee. Yeah, we actually planned a conference, and then we went to the mid-year meeting in Orlando. And a month later, all hell broke loose in the world of the pandemic. And then it was canceled by the end of March or beginning of April, and we had to plan a virtual conference, which really just turned. So I get I get the brag. I'm one of the only CPC chairs that planned 2 conferences, or helped to plan 2 conferences. So no, hardest working volunteer group I think there is. There's a lot of great opportunities, but that is hard work. It's dedication. and it's so important to one of the number one things that NRPA does, which is put on that national conference. We do lots of great things for NRPA, but that conference is huge, and the quality
Yes,
of
for
this
sure.
education are based on those volunteer groups. Now, I also know I'm part of the American Academy for Parks and Recreation as well, and you were one of the externs with their program, and there's lots of famous externs that are out there in the field today. So tell us about that experience.
I did. So I guess I could back up even further with NRPA. I also received one of the young professional scholarships at one point, and that's what really got me super involved with the NRPA Young Professional Network, which then after I, quote unquote, aged out, was involved with Leadership Development Network. But the Academy has a phenomenal program for the externship, and I received that about 10 years ago. It was an opportunity that I applied for, and the unique part about that scholarship process, and I would encourage anyone that is interested to definitely apply for that, is not only do you get an opportunity to go to a conference, and that a lot of that is covered with the registration and with travel stipend, but you get to be paired up with a mentor from the Academy. And I was lucky enough to get paired with Dirk Richwine, who has since passed away. But Dirk was a tremendous person and friend, mentor, someone that I truly adored. And I went to Denver on a family vacation and went to dinner with him and his wife. And it was great to spend time with him outside of just a conference and get to know him deeper with talking about his family and his passion that he has outside of Park and Rec. But the Academy externship is amazing because it really pairs you with, one of the best in our industry, and allows you to learn behind the scenes of what the Academy does, go to the Academy dinner, attend the Academy meeting, be introduced to a lot of Academy members at that meeting. So it was a tremendous experience. And, once you're part of that externship, then you can stay on and be involved in, subcommittees, which I'm involved this year in a few, and I've done that every year since the externship was awarded.
Yeah. I know we work together on the career development side of things together, and it's a great organization that dovetails nicely with what NRPA is doing, and certainly passionate about young professionals and
Yes.
That growth in the profession. I think it scares us all where the next leader's coming from at this point, based on a lot of things. So, okay, let's flip to the other little side hat you have. You probably wear about 10 hats in your agency, but you also are a co-host of a podcast, which is pretty darn popular in our Parks and Rec space, and it's called Reckless. How did that come about?
Yeah, so I can't take the claim of starting it. It was really an idea that Shane Mize had, and Shane Mize and Tom Bonero and I are the three of us that host that podcast. We've been very close friends for probably going on 15 years now, and we all met because of NRPA and because of the Young Professional Network. And over the years, we just became closer and closer. And there's a group of us, about 10 or 12 of us, and we call ourselves the YPN fam, just because we're really close, like a family. And we're all scattered throughout the country. There's folks that are in Illinois, there's folks in Indiana, Minnesota, Texas, New York, North Carolina. We're all over the place, Washington. And Shane texted Tom and I about 4 years ago and said, "Hey, I got this idea. I want to float to you." And then he left us hanging for about 2 weeks and didn't tell us what it was. So we got on a call, and he said, "You guys and I and the three of us have been able to meet a lot of people, have some great conversations. We all three of us in different capacities, we're always really involved in either NRPA or the state associations, whether it was speaking at a conference or, being on a committee like CPC or the awards committee or your state association planning a state conference. And, we all identified that we received some awards and scholarships through the externship. All three of us were extern winners. Both those two individuals actually won a Young Professional Award that I did not win, and they will always, Robert Crawford, they'll hold that over me till the day I die.
Sure.
But through these opportunities, we've had a lot of opportunities to talk to folks and make some relationships. And, Shane said, "Well, listen, I love this podcast called Smartless, and it's three guys, famous celebrities that just, they get a guest on and they talk and they just, share their story. And, just talk about whatever they want to talk about, but it's usually related to something in their industry. And Shane's like, what if we did that for Park and Rec? And, we know a lot of people, we've been able to build relationships, and, what if we had that chance to introduce, other people to folks like, Katie Keller was our first guest, who we're all good friends with, and just let them share their story and share their passion that they have. And we can just do that with, people from around the country. And, that was the pitch. We're now about to kick off season 6 and release that in about 2 weeks. We've recorded 110 episodes so far, from everywhere from literally, California to folks that were not even living in the United States right now. We had the water director for the Baha Mar water resort in the Bahamas. She was on. We had our first guest for season 6 that's going to come out in a couple weeks, is our first international guest. She's the director of the National Association for Mexico. So really excited to have that opportunity and talk with her. So we've been just loving this opportunity to talk to folks and share their stories and share our passion for park and recreation. And in some cases it's MWR, some cases it's municipal, some cases it's private, some cases it's, consulting. It's every facet of park and recreation.
Well, I had the good fortune to be on your show, and we talked a little military recreation along with Bunny Allen from the Pacific Northwest, and we had a great time on it. I just like what you do, and certainly thought about it when I was asked to do this podcast. I thought about a lot of things. How did I want to approach it? And didn't want to steal ideas like, your big opening question or anything like that. But I certainly looked at a couple episodes just to kind of get a feel and say, okay, what's my tone? How am I going to kind of approach the episodes that I'm building this content for? So that was pretty cool. But also, I was very appreciative of you at last NRPA getting me one of your Reckless T-shirts, which I've worn proudly in many locations. Jovi, if you want to pull this up, I want to show you. I was supporting you a few weeks back.
I love it.
I was in Cabo in Mexico and poolside. It was a little windy that day, but I had my shirt on as I walked over to the pool and sharing the Reckless thing. So a lot of paying respect to you guys, showing the love from Mexico for you. So
that's awesome. I love it. Yeah, we've been fortunate enough to, have an opportunity to give some T-shirts to our former guests, and then we also, typically throw them up on our website, and we'll sell them to folks that are going to be at conference if you want to buy a shirt. And really, we do it to help raise some funds, bring awareness, and a lot of times we've been giving scholarships away to others that need support to get to conferences, because we know, like I said, Shane and Tom and I were lucky to get some scholarships over the years, and we want to give back. And that's what we've been able to do is, we've given up to, I think so far, over $5,000 worth of scholarships for folks to attend conferences.
That is awesome. Yeah, somebody did offer me $10 for it, so I did sell it. But I just want no, I'm joking. Of course, Jovi, you can pull that back down. All right. So very highly successful. I think you've done some really good work with Reckless, and can't wait to see the next season come out. But also, as I've been tuning in, as you're in between seasons, I've noticed Hannah Mize, Shane's wife, who I think helps produce your regular show, has kind of done a splintered, different show, different take, but I've been fascinated with it. So tell us about that one. Absolutely.
So Hannah Mize is Shane's wife, who's also our producer and probably the rock of how we're able to accomplish what we've accomplished, because the number of editing and, keeping us straight is not easy, I'm sure, especially when you have to live with Shane. But, if you, over the years, when we've had these conversations with a lot of our guests, a lot of times, we talk about some of the challenges that we face in Park and Rec. And this is, in all areas of Park and Rec, we typically work a lot of odd hours. We're working nights and weekends to provide the programs or the events or the trips when your partner, your spouse, your family may not be working. So, we're typically doing a lot of unique hours. We also have a lot of commitment. Technically, if you're in a municipality, you might have a lot of council meetings, board meetings, commission meetings that, extend your day to be into the night. I'll speak for my current situation. My wife, she works a set schedule of pretty much 7 to 4 every day. Doesn't never have to work a night or a weekend. Whereas, I'm pretty much 1 to 2 nights a week, have a night meeting, might have to work weekends. We have road races, we have events, we have festivals. So, you're kind of being pulled in every direction when you're in Park and Rec. And when we've had these conversations with our guests, that's come up a lot. So Shane and Hannah, were talking, I think, one day, and Hannah had the idea of, well, let's kind of take a spin off and how does this industry impact the spouse, your partner, or our families of the working professionals? And the other side of it is, what can we do as professionals to give them support to help them get through this? And, since we have had a lot of young professionals, we've had some young professionals that are only a year, maybe 2 or 3 years in, and they're just getting married or they're engaged, and this might be new to their spouse, whereas, Shane and Hannah have been married for, almost maybe 20 years or more. My wife and I, we got married in 2009. So going on 17 years. So she's full blown understands the industry now. But, 17 years ago, if she would have had an opportunity to learn about, what this is going to look like, it would be helpful for her. So Hannah's been phenomenal and had a ton of our former guests and their spouse on a podcast called This Parks and Rec Life. It's been airing while we are prepping for our next season. So in the meantime, if you go to the same Reckless channels, Spotify, Apple, you can see This Parks and Rec Life. And it's been a great opportunity for her and, other guests to jump in and just share their story on, what Park and Rec has either meant to them and how they've grown, both personally, mentally, professionally. And I'll also just be excited to share that Hannah submitted a session at NRPA's conference to talk about this and talk about the impact on your personal life and, providing a toolkit for the spouse and for your professional to be able to go back home and, help one another, achieve a full life, both on the field or off the field, per se, in and out of the office.
I love it. And Hannah, a little bit of dealings with her when we were doing the show and back and forth, and got a chance to meet her at conference. And again, she's been married to Shane for a long time, so I give her extra credit bonus as well. But no,
Absolutely.
That's awesome stuff. I've heard 2 or 3 episodes now
Okay.
of what they're doing, and it's good stuff. So I'm a fan. I'm going to listen, and we'll continue to promote through our channels as
Excellent.
well. That's good stuff. So before I let you go, Jay, got to ask, what is your proudest moment in your career to date? What are you most proud of? It can be an event. It can be an award. It doesn't matter. What are you most proud of at this point?
I think it's hard to pick just one thing, but I would say, I had some staff that I worked with that reported to me that I now see in director level positions in leadership roles. But when they worked with me or worked, for me in the department I worked for, they were, programmers or frontline staff. And to see them grow and to communicate with them and to know that they have come as far as they have is really something I'm extremely proud of. And it's not specifically that say that I did that or I was a part of that, but just to know that they stuck through a lot of the tough times in their journey. And we might have had some tough times in events and programming. But to see where they're at now and to see that drive and that passion they have and to impact the community that they're having an impact on, it's incredible to see that.
That's awesome. And yeah, I can relate. And just having this conversation with you, knowing we've had so many great interns that came through Great Lakes and who are hugely successful, and you're one of them. So I know I can feel proud too that I had nothing to do with your career, but the fact you came through and are doing well and we've stayed connected is awesome.
Yeah.
So really, thanks for the time today, Jay. I really appreciate it. All right, that is
Thank you for having me.
That is it today for On the Front Line. Thanks again to Jay and his amazing story and journey through the profession. We'll be back next week, same time, same place, for another great episode. So on behalf of all of us at DPRS Media and On the Front Line, the Military Rec Show, I'm John Prue, and we are out here.
This year, we didn't just attend an event. We became part of something bigger. IPRA 2026 brought together leaders, innovators, and community builders, all united by one mission: to strengthen parks, recreation, and the people they serve. For DPRS Media Network, it was an honor to join IPRA 2026 and take part in meaningful, real-time conversations, capturing stories and amplifying voices that matter. To IPRA, thank you for creating a space where collaboration thrives and the future of parks and recreation is shaped together. We extend our deepest gratitude to Amelia and all our partners who made these live interviews possible. IPRA 2026 wasn't just an event, it was a reminder that when communities connect and stories are shared, impact follows. From all of us at DPRS Media Network, thank you, IPRA. Thank you, partners and sponsors. We're honored to stand with you and excited for what's next. Are you a vendor, brand, or service provider ready to connect with the heartbeat of local communities? At DPRS Media Co., we tell the stories shaping parks and recreation across America. Through podcasts, live streams, videos, and newsletters, we reach frontline leaders, city directors, and decision makers every single week. From youth sports and facilities to programming and policy, our audience is your audience. Sponsoring or partnering with DPRS Media Co. puts your brand in front of the professionals who build, budget, and buy for their communities. Launching a new product, growing your presence in public spaces, targeting cities, counties, or departments, DPRS is your trusted media partner. Whether you're in software, turf, aquatics, robotics, smart cities, or special events, partnering with DPRS puts your brand in the story. With commercials, interviews, social campaigns, newsletters, and live shows, we're your media team. Partner with us and grow your impact in the $200 billion parks and rec industry. DPRS Media Co. Stories that move parks and rec forward. Your audience is here. Let's meet them.